The ASA Tour in Appling, Georgia is brought to you by Hoyt Archery, by Easton Archery, and by Obsession Bows. Welcome everybody to the shoot-off this weekend. This is our very first round for this afternoon. First up, we have Women's Pro. Sorry, I had to move. There's a reception issue with the microphone. First up this afternoon, we have the Women's Pro Shootdown. Christine Harrelson, your number 5 qualifier, shot a 390 with 6 bonus rings. Your number 4 qualifier, shooting for Matthews, from Dublin, Georgia, Kaylee Johnson with a 398 and 3 bonus rings. And your number 3 qualifier, from Southwest Wisconsin, shooting a 402 with 8 bonus rings, Emily McCarthy. Your number 2 qualifier, from Lapeer, Michigan, shooting for Matthews, Cara Kelly with a 413 and 11 bonus rings. And your number 1 qualifier, with an amazing 421 and 14 bonus rings, shooting for Matthews, from Townville, South Carolina, Sharon Wallace.
All right, there's the stage is set. Nathan Brooks, I'm Craig White, as we bring you the coverage of this 2019 Mackenzie ASA Pro-Am Tour here in Appling, Georgia at the True Ball and Vortex Pro-Am Women's Pro. So far this season, Nathan, Kaylee Johnston won Foley, Cara Kelly won at Fort Benning, and the last time we were competing, Sharon Wallace won. So all 3 of those competitors in this shoot down.
Yeah, these ladies are dominant forces in 3D archery, and they have been here a while, and they are going to be a mainstay here in known or in unknown yardage 3D, and both and actually, you know, they do fantastic indoors as well. These ladies can flat shoot their bows.
All right, so on target number 1 on the left side is the taper. There's Christine Harrelson.
She's going to be eyeing a 14,
yeah,
and that's going to be on the Blesbach.
That's target number 5 where Christine is.
And by the way, that is a poke out there at that Blesbach.
It's down there a ways. We're not going to give the distance away just yet, just in case any of these competitors, so Christine's going for it.
She had to have misset her sight on that.
You think so?
Yeah.
I just think it's a tough judger too, though, because you have that water in the background maybe. There's a 10, looks like a 10. That's the Howling Wolf. That's going to be target number 3. Our first one on the taper is a 12.
For Sharon Wallace.
She continues to pull away from the field in this one. A potential record-setting 21 up coming into this.
Cara Kelly shooting the turkey.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if she called the upper, but if she did, she's close to the upper, probably still going to be a little bit to the right.
Don's going to be taking a close look at that.
Yeah, that's
all right, so tell us about those scoring rings that we're looking at.
Okay, so you have inside the 10 ring, you have an upper 12 and a lower 12, and obviously inside the 8 ring, you see a ring out there that is all by itself, and it's the 14 ring. And obviously, if you shoot at that and miss, you're an 8 or potentially a 5, because it's so easy to shoot a 5 out there on those edges. So most of these gals are going to be shooting at the 12s, with the exception of, like you said, Christine Harrelson said from the beginning, she is going to go
for it
for the 14s.
So it looks like Emily McCarthy, who was on that Howling Wolf, she's shot a 10. 5 for Johnston.
Probably trying to make a move there. Can't see the target from that angle, but
Very interesting field of play because the archers are actually elevated above the targets. So from when the cameras are low or even from our vantage point, we can't even see some of those targets because they do have quite a bit of elevation. But you've been there, you've stood up there, Nathan. Is it an elevation where you're going to have to allow cuts into the thinking?
Not really.
And explain what I'm talking about.
Well, because of the elevation changes, your line of sight and what the arrow actually travels might be two different things as far as gravity goes. So without getting into real technical details, up and down, when you're shooting up and down hills, you have to cut distance. So this is a little bit downhill, but probably no further than the targets are at 50 yards at this angle. You may have to cut maybe a half yard at the most. So it's not a big cut.
Emily McCarthy lets it fly. She's on target number 4 is McCarthy. So that's going to be the javelina. There's her shot.
Ooh, yeah.
That looks good if she didn't call the upper. Who is that going for the 14? That was Christine
that's
Harrelson.
Christine,
yeah,
yeah.
she was on the tape here. Going for it. Just missed that one.
I wanted to get back real quick with that with Emily.
Looking at those scoring, yeah.
Yeah, Emily, making that shot right there. Look, she looks so confident and solid in her anchor as she broke that shot. I thought that was going to be close if she had the distance right, and it's definitely all over it. So
it's a good shot of looking at the target from a perspective standpoint. You can see the water in the background now. If you're at full draw, and there are boats that are coming back and forth, do you think that you would ever be distracted by that?
Honestly, these guys, everyone shooting today, if they get distracted by that, I don't know how they're in the finals.
Yeah, right. Yeah, good point.
These shooters here, they're totally focused on their shooting. But there is distractions, don't get me wrong. I noticed sitting here a second ago, there was buzzards flying into this big pine tree right here. And if you had a big buzzard flying through your line of sight while you're aiming, that would be a distraction. Did she get that? And Emily got the 12 on the javelina. That was a great shot. That's a long shot, by the way.
10 for Kaylee Johnston. So now indicating archers can move to their next position.
All right, Greg, you notice on the Blesbach, I'm sure we'll get back around to seeing that target again, but it has a mound in front of it from the shooter's perspective. This is a perfect look right here. And that mound takes away a lot of the distance from the top of that mound to the target. So that is a pure guess on how far it is from the top of that mound to the target.
That's the one far right of your screen.
And so when they're judging that, what really helps them as yardage judges is they need to know the size, the depth of that target, and that's how you judge that, because you can't look at the ground. There's no ground there. So you have to have that feel of what that target looks like in order to be able to put the right distance on it when you see it like that past that point. It's a good look at Kaylee. She shot that same release for a long time.
Just say she told me before we got here that she just had an average day shooting. There's a 12, yeah.
She's a great shooter.
Let's talk about visions. Christine called the upper on that one. So Christine was on the turkey. That's number 2. So she called upper, so she didn't get that one. It's the taper, or tapier, kind of your preference. Solid in the middle, 10. Next we'll move over to the turkey. From our vantage point, we're outside underneath the canopy, and there's a little glare on the screen, but to me it looks like it pulls that is that the core line?
Yeah,
so that was the core line. So
yes.
Make no mistake there. It was that the line that was outer, that's the 8 ring, and then you go inside, and that's going to be the 10 ring. That's that.
Correct. That's what you see here on this target too. The outer line is the outer ring is the 8. And sometimes it can be confusing a little bit because the way the cores are in the target, it kind of would resemble an 8. And actually, we have a target, the Lynx target, which we're not shooting at this point, but the core line actually represents the 8 line. So it could be confusing at times, but
So we're whittling arrows down here, but when we get to the 5th arrow, what's the requirement if we need to shoot a 6th arrow, a 6th target?
well, anyone within 10 points of the leader will get a 6th and final arrow. So at this point, Sharon is really pulling away.
That's what that's...
So at this point, Cara is the closest, and she's actually 12 points out. So if we make it all the way through with this same gap, Sharon will win with just the 5th arrow, and they won't need to shoot 6.
And we know since our leader, Sharon Wallace, is in the 4th position, this is our 4th arrow, she starts on number 1, just rotates out. So could this be the penultimate arrow to win this one and be crowned T.R.U and Vortex Pro-Am champ here in Appling, Georgia for 2019? Question is, does she continue to shoot the way that got her here, or does she just go conservative with the 10? Because we know Cara Kelly's going to go for it.
You know, the funny thing, when you have a big lead and you're shooting well, it's so easy to add to it because you know that you can make mistakes and still be ahead. So you continue to just press the metal, press the pedal down to the metal and get with it. So more than likely, though, Sharon has been in this position many, many times.
Oh, yeah.
She's probably just going to shoot them down there in the 10 ring and walk out of here with a win.
Yeah, last time we were here in Georgia for the shoot, Sharon Wallace was our champ from 2018. Trying to do it again.
Yeah, these shooters. Oh, that was possibly a miss. No, probably just a misjudge. She's not acting like she misset her sight. So
yeah, normally we would see somebody just immediately look at their sight just to double check. So 2 things there, if you look at it. So that was Emily McCarthy. Or was it Cara Kelly who was on number 1?
Emily's on number 1.
Yeah,
Cara's on number 5 at the moment. There's a 12 for Kaylee Johnston on the turkey.
Got it.
You know, Greg, I shot in this shoot-off here last year, and when you're on the edge of this little point out here, you got the lake, open lake on both sides of you. The wind, there's no barrier. And so it's not like it's windy today, but as you're aiming, a little gust that might be only 5 miles an hour, 4 miles an hour, when you have no gust to that, it's just enough to move something.
Yeah, especially with a lot of these women shooters that could be shooting maybe, 23s, 25s maybe? I don't know many that shoot 27s. But your larger diameter arrows, they're not shooting the same micro arrows. And normally here, you're pretty well shielded from the wind. If you're in the woods, so it could affect the flight, right?
Yeah, it did me last year. I can promise you that. And I shoot a heavy arrow at 400 grains. Watch this shot here.
See your hair move? Just
yeah,
a, you know
just
what I mean?
a little
Just
bit.
a little bit of a wind there. That's kind of what you're talking about. But that wasn't it, I don't think. Because like you're saying, Nathan, initially she would have probably just thrown her bow in the air and looked at that sight tape and said, "Oh no, did I miss sight?" But
more than likely it was probably a combination of 2 things. One, she probably fired just a little bit low, and then she knew she didn't have the distance. That's the look I get. I could be way off, but that's the reaction I get.
So as the scores get updated, now it was 12, and after that arrow, it's now 7 points the difference. So depending on what happens with this arrow, we could go to a single arrow shoot. Another arrow, I guess, the 6th arrow, which is going to be the HD deer, and that would be between Wallace and Kelly at this point. All right, Christine Harrelson.
Good look at Sharon here again. See how she bounces back. Shot looked just the same. She broke nice and clean, and she put plenty of yardage on it that time. So good 10.
Christine low on that one. That might be a 5. Good 10 on the Howling Wolf.
That's Kaylee, and I believe she shoots at all uppers. So there's been several times that we've seen her arrows in the targets, and she's been just left or right of that upper.
So Cara Kelly just shot an 8 on that one. I think she was going for the kill shot, going for that 14. So that's going to take her to 61. So it looks like
And we saw Sharon's arrow hit the target before, and it was a 10.
a 10. So that means it's going to be within 9 points. So they should be rolling out that 6th target. As we've still got to find out who's going to be 3rd. I think it's pretty well safe for Emily McCarthy.
Yeah.
Kaylee Johnson with a 10. Christine Harrelson on the javelina. Looks like she got that 8 ring.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah,
8 ring,
she did.
solid. Mm-hmm.
It's not real prominent there. It's hard to kind of pick out. It's right below the core line, but it's there, right through it. So yeah, we'll have one final arrow here between Sharon and Cara Kelly.
Yep, and that's confirmation to 10 for Wallace. He'll take her to 470, 474.61. So now what we're going to do is we'll see them roll out the deer. Where they're going to put it is going to be the question, because keep in mind they can tell the shooters where, to go anywhere they want to go, right?
Right.
And I think what they might do is put them inside the ASA logo and let them stand there. So they're going to get a rejudge.
Well, our first and second place finishers here last year in the women's class was, as you said before, Sharon. But we didn't mention that Cara got second. So.
Oh yeah, it looks like it's going to be a repeat
it
of the
could
top
be a
2
repeat
steps
of
of
the
podium.
top 2 for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, Emily has sewn up her 3rd place finish. It was a good weekend of shooting for Emily. She shot really good today.
And don't forget, there's a battle for Shooter of the Year. When we came into this, Emily McCarthy was tied with Cara Kelly at 12.28 in terms of points. Sharon Wallace behind at 11.98, so 30 points the difference. So there's still that battle going on for Shooter of the Year without question. Now, it gets a little funky, I guess you could say, at some point, because you can drop your lowest score of the year, and so your 5 best count. But they still keep an eye on it. Where are you in Shooter of the Year? And because there's a lot of prestige and prize money wrapped up in Shooter of the Year.
Yeah, absolutely. And those totals, like you said, those totals can change with those drop scores. And you're, 3rd place Sharon, she actually may be in the lead when we take the drop.
Yeah,
but
especially with the score she shot getting in here.
Absolutely. But as is, we see where your leaders are at, and still it's these three ladies that are really laying it down, and that's who they've got to. That's who we're looking at.
All right, here comes that HD. I'm going to pound that place now. For Shooter of the Year, for our viewing audience, maybe someone who's new, how do they determine, where do these points come from? Is it that all the points you accumulate, including here in the shoot down, or is it those first 2 days?
No, yes, it is the 2 days of shooting. The shoot down itself actually does not count because they only use accumulative points in the 40 target, basically your qualifying round, and that's how they determine Shooter of the Year.
So basically, Sharon Wallace, she tacked on another 421 points to her score then.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's been talk several times about changing that format to where we would actually use a point system because people have talked about the shoot down needing to count for Shooter of the Year points and things like that. And this is the way the ASA has operated their Shooter of the Year points since 1993, which is when the ASA was founded, or when it started as a full tour. And so they've stayed true to that that format.
All right, so final arrow. Sharon Wallace leads 470 points to Cara Kelly's 461. Any chance of Cara Kelly at this point? Gotta think she's gonna go gunning for the 14.
Yeah, why not? You're 2nd place regardless if you miss the target or if you hit the 14. Sharon would have to.
Oh, she went for
She
it.
went for it.
What a well-executed shot, but it looks like she dropped it low by just an inch or so.
That's 1 yard. That's 1 yard
Mm-hmm.
miscalculation on judging distance.
So that's scored as an 8. So that's going to move her to 469. So Sharon Wallace doesn't even have to shoot this one, and she's
does
going to be our
not.
champion.
Yep.
So she doesn't have to shoot it. She just asked. She's like, I'm not shooting it.
She's done.
So there you go. Applause all around. Sharon Wallace, after an incredible record-breaking, what we think anyway, a record-breaking score, she gives her husband Jack Wallace, who's leading the Open Pro class, a big kiss after that victory. And she will take the title of the True Ball and Vortex Pro-Am champ, repeating what she was able to pull off in 2018. So the top 2 steps of the podium, the same as they were last year. What a performance, and what a well-deserved. I mean, you come in with a score like 21 up. I think you deserve to win it.
Oh my gosh, yes. When you potentially set a record like that, to not get the win, that would be hard to swallow. But
all right, let's get to
happens.
BJ, who has our winner.
All right, Sharon Wallace. This was wire-to-wire leading, but tell us about this shoot down. You come in with a record score.
I did. I had an incredible weekend. It was just one of those weekends that just everything was going right. The judging, my T.R.U. was performing amazing, and I shot an incredible score all weekend. So I just wanted to come in here and try and play safe, hit the short ones and just tend the long ones, and the heavy got me a little bit, but I just got it.
Talk about this weekend, though. I heard you out on the range say that this was one of those weekends where you just couldn't do anything wrong.
No, I just I'll do a you'll have a little push up here, and it would stay, and just the judging, it all came together. You usually know within a couple of shots if you know it's going to be a good weekend for you, and it just was.
All right, well, congratulations, Sharon. Great round.
Thank you so much.
Unbelievable. What a score. Congratulations to Sharon Wallace, Women's Pro Champ. For this one, let's take a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to have the senior pros ready to shoot.
We don't build these bows to be different. We build them to be better. We're the outsiders, the mavericks, the fearless. We forge our own path. We're not chasing anyone, but we know what they're running from. It's an obsession, and the obsessed never rest.
Vince Lombardi once said, winning is not a sometime thing, it's an all-time thing. You don't do things right once in a while. You do them right all the time. Winning is a habit. Unfortunately, so is losing. I've learned in my career I'm only as good as the tools I use.
12 for Levi Morgan.
One chance, one moment, one shot.